beginning of something. And however, our closing speaker has been on the case of moral leadership for a long time and is one of the most respected rabbis in the world. He was the president of the Central Conference of American Rabbis, and he is a member of the Board of Trustees of the Union for Reform Judaism and the Hebrew Union College. He's the past chair of the Liturgy and Reform Practices Committee. He's one of the leading inspirations in the Jewish community and one of its leading intellectuals as well, Rabbi Peter Knobel.
I'm deeply honored to be here and deeply grateful to the organizers, but even more deeply grateful to these very important interreligious leaders who are here, as well as the leaders of this great international body who are committed to this great task. I am a longtime Reform rabbi and one who served for over 30 years at a synagogue which was a self-proclaimed nuclear weapons-free zone. As religious leaders and as interreligious leaders, we turn to our sacred traditions to inform our thinking on the great moral issues we face as individuals and nations. Nuclear weapons are an anathema to anyone concerned about the future of humanity and its fragile ecosystem. I want to repeat what has been said a number of times before. Nuclear weapons represent the power to not only inflict massive damage to soldiers, citizens, animals, and plants without discernment, but also actually to reverse the gift of creation and make our planet uninhabitable. Emblazoned on the wall of this great body are the words of the Hebrew prophet Isaiah. And he shall judge between the nations and reprove many peoples, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. The destruction of all weapons and the cessation of all war is a primary goal of the visionaries who created the United Nations. The Israeli poet Yehuda Amichai bids us go even further than Isaiah. He writes, "Don't stop beating after the swords into plowshares. Don't stop. Go on beating and make musical instruments out of them. Whoever wants to make war again will have to turn them into plowshares first." The poet's vision calls forth our highest ideals. Let us at least fulfill the promise of the first resolution of the United Nations General Assembly of January 24, 1946, which calls for the elimination of atomic and other weapons of mass destruction. Back in 1982, during the Cold War, the Central Conference of American Rabbis adopted a resolution entitled Bilateral Nuclear Arms Freeze and Reduction. It reads in part, "A nuclear war, even a limited one, would result in death, injury, and disease on a scale without precedent. Civil defense and medical treatment would be totally inadequate. Our traditions speak to us of sakanat nifashot, the danger of exposing ourselves to health hazards, bal tashchit, the abhorrence of willful destruction of the environment, and yishuv ha'aretz, the betterment and guardianship of the earth. Inspired by prophets, we raise our voices." Today, with over 17,000 nuclear weapons in existence, the threat of the use of nuclear weapons by accident, design, or madness remains real. Today, we must raise our voices again. We must say together, nuclear weapons are immoral, and for that reason, we must work together to eliminate them. The values of Bal Tashchit, wanton destruction, are embodied in the rules of war as set forth in Deuteronomy. When you lay siege to a city for many days, battling against it in order to capture it, do not destroy its trees, wielding the axe against them, for from them you eat, and you may not cut them down. Limiting destructive capacity is not a new imperative, nor is it limited to just humanity. In our tradition, God informs humanity in the story of Noah with a beautiful emphasis of a rainbow that followed the great flood, that God pledged never again to destroy the creation through a flood, a mabul mayim. Surely God's placing restraint on himself should guide our own restraints. Do we have a right to place creation itself at such risk? We, through great effort and great cost, have developed a new kind of flood, a mabul esh, a flood of nuclear fire, to do that which God has pledged not to do. Is this not the pinnacle of arrogance? It is not enough to merely stop proliferation. We are morally compelled to eliminate nuclear weapons. It is our duty to cherish and protect creation, to learn to love and care for one another. It is time to beat our nuclear swords into plowshares and not stop beating until they are musical instruments.